I'll start talking more about the general strategy or outline, and then we'll have Pilar, who's, I think it's the first time that you meet her. She's here in the call as well. There's Pilar. She's our community engagement expert, and she'll walk you through the process, the tools, the tips, and you know, how to be the most efficient, or at least from our point of view, as we do this a lot with for Base Miami and also for some of the clients that we work with. So let me share the screen here so that you can see the presentation. Here we go. Okay, you're seeing my screen, right? Yes, good. Okay, so first we wanted to share this about because a lot of times we find that most of the entrepreneurs that we work with, that as soon, you know, the first things that they do when they are thinking of the US or they arrive in the US is like, let's sell, right? Let's go out and sell. We need to sell, so we need to start sending emails and sending LinkedIn and then trying to connect with people, because that's the way that we're used to doing business in Latin America. And really, it's very few times that the same strategy that you have in Latin America works in the US. And that's why it's important that we review the strategies and the tactics that we're going to use in the US. That, you know, in Latin America, you can still, and I'm talking Latin America as a general, although each culture is of course totally different, but I'm trying to be, but let's say in Chile, in Argentina, in Colombia, Peru, maybe you pick up the phone and you call somebody and they will answer sometimes, or if they answer, you might have, you know, strike a conversation. Or if you send an email, a good email, you can also get a reply back sometimes. And this is harder and harder in the US. You know, the cold calling and phone calls is like almost dead, although we still recommend, if you have enough bandwidth to do it, it's one more channel to try, and it's definitely worth trying, but it's also very tough to get any phone calls really on a cold basis. Email and LinkedIn, same thing. It's tough. It's a hard market out there, and we'll go through a little bit more of that. But the important thing is that you keep in mind that we are going to talk about outreach, but we don't recommend to stick only to outreach, right? We talk about demand generation. We talked about this before in the general presentation about Market Ready. We also have a blog post about this if you want to go to our website and see the blog about demand gen versus lead generation. And there's a lot of information online to find about what demand generation really is. And in essence, what it is you know, it's to do a lot of different tactics, let's say, whose primary focus is to build and increase the awareness about your product or service. And by this, we mean content. Content is the main thing, you know, from videos to blogs to articles and we'll go through a little bit of that. But in essence, it's about you creating for your company and for yourself a thought leadership positioning. So you want to present yourselves as experts in what you do. And the way to do this is it doesn't happen overnight. It's not something that, oh, I'll put a blog and then I'll see how many leads I got from the blog. And then if it works, then I'll do another blog. That doesn't work. You may do 25 blogs in 6 months and maybe you get a few leads. But what you're doing is you're building your brand, you're building the awareness on your product and on yourself as a leader of that brand. So that's what I mean. Like the outreach is it's not a shortcut. It's just one more thing to do in a very broad demand generation strategy that is based mainly on this content side. And of course, before also you start the outreach, you need to have a very clear target audience, you know, the ICP that we already went through, the buyer persona. So you need to know exactly who you're going after. And we know that in this first stage, what we are encouraging you to do is not to think about who I can sell my product to, but more about who I can connect with that can help me understand the ecosystem and understand the value chains and you know, be this kind of a mentor or advisor. We recommend that in the beginning, especially because you still have to understand the dynamics of how the industry and the markets work before you go out and start, you know, trying to sell something. So it's the same approach, although what we're going to be doing through this presentation is show you, you know, the outreach for prospects and how we work when we want to get business meetings. But it works in general also for when you're trying to reach industry ecosystems and industry experts. ecosystem players or industry experts. That's why it's super important that you define, you know, who they are. Also, in terms of the ecosystem, you know, it's good that you understand the who is who, and so you can start building that community. I don't know if you've heard of this term, social selling. It's the new thing, and it's really using mainly LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is the top social media platform for sales or for corporations, I would say, for the business ecosystem. And usually it's not about just like any random person connecting you, because that happens a lot. There's a lot of spray and pray, people just sending, you know, messages to sell you stuff online. It happens, especially you guys that, you know, maybe you have the founder role or the CEO role. They don't even know what you do, and they just try to sell you something sometimes. So that happens a lot. And strangers are usually not welcome, right? Like you usually don't open the door to people that you don't recognize or that you don't know who they are at all. So what we recommend is it is time that you have to spend looking at profiles, looking at content that they share, liking and comment articles when you're doing this research and this community outreach, because it's important that they can see that, oh, you know, this guy liked my and commented on this and that, and it starts building sort of a mini relationship with you. And these are things that we recommend, again, before you even start sending out messages on LinkedIn. And growing and engaging your network is key. And this is really about building more and more connections every day, being online and the different, you know, like consuming the different content that is shared in your industry, knowing who these players are, and trying to establish somehow a dynamic online with the different players that you want to connect with. Building your thought leadership, this is key, and this is really, again, around content. You know, you have to be producing content on a weekly basis if you want to start building your audience and building your both brand and so company branding and personal branding. So you know, and think about it. I know it sounds sometimes daunting to say, hey, let's build content every week, but it's maybe you can do a long article that you write once, and then from there you can pull out, you know, a short blog post about it. You can do a video that you can share as well. You know, you can interview clients, you can interview, I don't know, employees that you have. Like, there's a lot of different content that you can create, as long as it's always, you know, you always keep in mind that you want to add value to your network. So something that you can give that the audience that you're trying to connect with will appreciate and say, okay, you know what, I can use this information somehow. Always keep that in mind. But it's key that you build this content. Again, we say one piece of content once or twice a week is the ideal thing for LinkedIn, but not less than that. And I put video because video is really the most converting content that is out there today. It's so easy for us to do video.
Video on LinkedIn, Charlie?
Sorry?
Video on LinkedIn?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, look, I'll show you, look, here, and I had it open just to show you, and then I'll go through the profile stuff, but I'm putting videos like all the time. And let me go to the post so I can show you some of them. And I won't dwell too much. But it's really, for example, you see here I was interviewing, and you'll meet Rebecca. She's the Miami Angels managing director. So I've interviewed her for like 15 minutes, and then we do snippets of a minute and a half on LinkedIn. You know, just sharing the highlight of the. So the concept of this, okay, maybe somebody sees the video, then they can click on the link for YouTube. But again, it's not about thinking about being results oriented or how many likes or how many comments did I get or how many. It's more about building your personal brand. So where somebody goes into my profile and they don't know who I am and they start browsing, they'll see anything related to startups, to LATAM innovation in Miami, about the Miami ecosystem. And so I'd say any entrepreneur from Latin America that goes into my LinkedIn will find value for sure, because I'm constantly pushing content that really relates to them and resonates with them, you know. So and video, yes, it's the #1 converter on LinkedIn, Kamal, just so you know. So the more you can use video on LinkedIn, the better it would be for your positioning and in general for your brand. So okay, so as I said, this is more like strategic, just to keep that mindset of content, ideally video, once a week for sure. Because if you don't have those tools, let's say, it's very hard to start doing outreach because you don't have what to share. And when people go to your site or your LinkedIn page, they will see that, okay, no, this sounds weird. Yeah, I'm not gonna even stay here for a second. So key to have this in place before we start. And in terms of what, now we're gonna go through like more of a step-by-step process on what you need to do in order to get to that point where you're doing outreach in an efficient way. And it's starting really first with the company and founder's profile. So company profile. Here it's just like a website. As you know, it's the first piece of information that potential clients will look at when they go into your company. So, you want to create a benefits-oriented profile, we call it. It should make it easy for browsers to understand what you do and how you can help them. So when they go through it, they can very quickly see what is done. And again, we have here, for example, the Base Miami profile, that if you go, you see a banner with the Miami background, and it says Base Miami. We help forward-thinking companies from around the world expand into the US market. It's short, it's brief, and it goes straight to like telling you what we do. And then in the About section, you can go more in detail on what is specifically that you do. Of course, the more, let's say, in this here, the more colloquial you are, the more straightforward you are to your audience. Again, always thinking about who is the reader that you are catering. But it's really about putting an overview of the basics of what is your value proposition and what you're trying to present to your target audience. So it's always important to include also in your company profile content. So again, one thing is your personal brand, and another thing is the company brand. So if you jump between my personal profile and my company profile, you'll see that it's different. Base Miami is constantly sharing information about activities, things that we're doing that are, again, relevant to the audience that we're catering. We're sharing also these interviews that we're doing, the blog posts that we create or articles that we create, not only ours, but also third parties. For example, PAG Law is a law firm that we work very closely with, and they did an article about should I stay or should I go, issues to consider before moving to the United States. That's interesting for our audience. This is one of our partners, so it's good to share. So we share that as Base Miami as well. So it's important to keep your page, again, also sharing relevant content and keep it updated. Here, when we all went, and I don't know if you knew, but we were in Refresh Miami, which is the most viewed entrepreneurship newspaper in Miami, or editorial. I don't know how you call newspapers now because they're not paper anymore, but news outlet. So anyways, anything that you can share that is relevant to your audience in your main company page, you should do. But it's important to be meticulous about the content that you share. So that's in essence is sorry for what we say about company. So you can use LinkedIn Analytics as well, and that's maybe more evolved. That's after maybe 6 months of doing, or 3 months of doing something consistent on LinkedIn. You can start analyzing what's working, what's not working, what do my audience resonate more with, what kind of information, and so on and so forth, if you use the analytics. So that was the example on our side. Now on the founder's profile. So here also, think of this as your presentation. It's like you're the first impression that you'll make with your audience. So in the US, yes, you have to have English as your profile. I mean, you have to, and if you don't have it now in English, you should start working on it right now. There is an option in LinkedIn that you can have 2 languages. So depending on where the person comes in, they will see your profile in Spanish or in English. So that's something you can review on the settings with them. The headline is super important because it's the first thing that they see. So, and here, this is not only my, sorry, just to, so you know, what we're sharing here is not only Charly's opinion and Pilar's expertise. We also are constantly, you know, reading, looking at these thought leaders in the space that are sharing best practices and knowledge and etc. So that's what we're sharing. And actually, at the end, we'll give you a whole list of resources for you to keep looking at, and so that you can get this, you know, knowledge sort of absorbed yourself. But so what we see all over is authenticity. You know, at the end, it is a social media platform. It is a place where companies interact, but it's also a place to meet people. And you know, when you meet somebody, you want to be as authentic as you can. You want to show your passion, the passion for what you do, and that's what will make people resonate. So when you're tailoring your headline, like be fresh, be original. You know, you can ask questions. There's this guy, I love Josh Brown, for example. For me, he's like he's in Florida. He's a guy that does a lot of sales trainings. He was a school teacher, so and then he moved into sales training. So he has a very how do you say that? A very didactic, I don't know how you say that, but he teaches you in a very mundane way, so you can understand it very easily what he means and what he's saying and how to apply these things. And for example, this is his profile. Actually says, you know, Josh Brown struggling to book meetings, getting ghosted, want to sell without selling your soul. That's his headline. So that's a way to call attention and you know, let people know right away what you do and how you can help them solve some problem that they might be having. So it's highlighting the value that you can offer, and of course, as we said before, always, you know, try to have a call to action for your ICP. So again, not to toot my own horn, but just to see that we do eat our own pill as well. So it's you know, Charly's now helping innovative companies land and launch in Miami. So somebody that sees that is, oh, this guy helps companies land and launch in Miami, right? So it's pretty simple to understand. Instead of, if I put CEO at Base Miami or co-founder at Base Miami, it's like, what is that? What does that mean? Who's this guy? So you make them read more, and that's not the idea. Also, customizing your banner helps. So showing some image related to your value proposition or to what you're offering also helps. And by banner, sorry, I mean this thing on the background. So in my case, let me go here. We have just the Miami image on the background, so because we know the city and the people in it. So, but that's kind of something that you can do on customizing the banner. Let me go to this again. What else can I tell you? Yeah, telling the story. So the about and feature sections is kind of the next thing. So you know, you open with a headline, and then you go to your about. There you can, again, tell your story, be authentic. Everybody that reads things is, you know, we are humans and we are emotional. So we connect with things like that. You know, if the more, I think that the more you can go to what really drives you and what, you know, what took you to build what you're building, it's really that opportunity to catch the eye in that space. And again, just showing you, in my case, you know, I love helping entrepreneurs. I want to save them as much time as possible from the moment they decide they want to launch their US operation. Passionate about, well, and I know the Miami ecosystem and collaborate with a bunch of really cool people that happen to be excellent at what they do. So it's very colloquial. It's very, you know, sort of like I'm talking to a friend, and the idea is to show you exactly what you do. This guy is also somebody that we recommend following. He's awesome, and he started doing just plain outreach as an agency, and then he very early realized, okay, outreach is dead, or not dead, but it's dying a slow death, and it's also not the only thing that you can count on. So he moved into a content marketing agency, which includes outreach, but he's awesome when he posts things. And again, if you see he's about, I help B2B startups create pipeline through growth and brand awareness strategies that lead to actual sales output. So in one sentence, you know exactly what he's all about, you know, and then he's addressing, for example, he changed it. So this is another thing, be dynamic with your profile. You can adapt it as your business evolves, as your goals evolve, and also as the world evolves and changes, because 2020 is definitely something that is challenging. So, and if you see, you know, he goes back to what we were talking before, content is ridiculously important for your executive team, your site, your social media. It's just the key, and the standard of quality for outbound has gone way up. That's another thing. It's not about, hey, do you have 5 minutes for me to give you a demo? That does not work anymore here in the US. You need to build relationships, and you need to provide content, and Pilar is going to go over that as well. So let me go back to this, and then I can show you the video of Tony Robbins, because it's a lot of fun, the one I have there. So yeah, so we talked about your first sentence to pick high curiosity, you know, try to grab that attention, and all, yeah, well, aesthetics, you know, making it nice and look cool is always important, and focusing on the value that you can offer, you know, and I always say the same, passion, be authentic, be yourself, and use this as a way for the community to get to know you, because at the end, again, it's about relationships, and people would want to talk to you because of the passion that you have to on what you do. So on that, so that was more of the, as we said, the strategy, the outline, and the mindset that we need to have when we're building both our company profiles and our personal profiles. Now I'm going to pass it on to Pili, who's going to be guiding you through the process that we have and that we do with the clients that we work with, and also with Base Miami. And it's a great toolkit for you to, you know, take advantage of if you're not doing, or maybe if you're doing it, maybe you can improve it, or it's also sharing best practices and things that that we do to build out this process. So Pili, if you want, do you want
Charlie,
me to?
can we ask a couple of questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind, at the end, or
Okay.
just to make
I pasted it on the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw them. I was just thinking about that. Maybe if we don't cover it, because I'm not quite sure about the language thing, but yeah,
Yes.
we're gonna get to the Q&A section.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
so some of this we'll address during the present. So Billy, do you want me to keep sharing and you tell me click or next, or do you want me to put you as host and you can present? Up to you.
Yeah, I think I'd rather present, right?
Okay. So I'll stop sharing then, and you can share then.
Where is it? Okay. Can you see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Going back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was in step 4. Okay. So first of all, we need to build our database with our ICPs. Well, we've gone through this. We have our ICP, who's our ideal client profile, and then we have our buyer personas. And at this point, as we are starting, it's not that our buyer persona is going to be our ICP. It's not that it's going to be our end client, but we're also looking for industry experts, for influencers, for ecosystem players, potential partners, channels, alliances. Of course, VCs, venture capitalists, angels, people related to finance and lawyers. You want to build your ecosystem. You want to know people in Miami, people in your industry. You want to get feedback about your solution, about your value proposition, about the way you're conducting business. So you want to know who you are going to talk with. To build that database, I don't know if you've been using these tools so far? Probably you have in Latin America, because they're most oriented to the US. But then again, first, you can start with the LinkedIn organic search. Some of you are already familiar with Sales Navigator. It's a great tool to build databases. You can just enter the variables you want to, the parameters you want to look the companies under, like, you know, revenue, size, of course, industry. You can use that. And then there are these tools that are specifically oriented to the US market. Zoom Info is very well known. It's a great tool. It's very expensive too. I've just got a quotation on, yeah, it varies, and it goes in between $2,000 to $5,000 per month. But you get unlimited access to registers, and you get a lot of information on your, you know, ICPs or buyer personas, like, you know, buyer's intent in terms of, you know, the technology stack they have just acquired, the purchases they have just made, what they say in the news, like press releases. It's a really great tool. And then you have others that, you know, are not so complete, but you still get information. For instance, Lead 411, it's pretty good with the tech stack, especially, you know, for those, some of you are going to be interested in that, like, you know, which technology has a company adopted, like what's, you know, their core technology, their ERP, and some of you are going to be interested in that, some of you not. But then Lead 411, it varies. The price goes between $50 and $200, and you get, like, you know, from 150 for $50 you get 150 leads. Leads are people, buyer personas, no, not companies, but, you know, the full information on that person, phone number, email address, and more. And then the up lead is a little bit more expensive, but it's in that range. Like, you know, you can probably get a database of 200 people for, let's say, $100 per month. And when you use LinkedIn, or, you know, when you don't have any of these tools where you get the complete information on the prospect, there are other tools that you probably are familiar with. They're called email finders usually, but they also find phone numbers. There are a bunch of them. They pretty much work the same way. They are add-ons for Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. You just download them, you click, and you get the emails and the phone numbers. Super easy. One of my favorite, yeah, it's my favorite actually, is Lucia, because it's cheap. It's, you know, it's good. It's pretty accurate with the numbers. That's probably the most difficult thing, as Charlie said. You know, we're still there's several. I usually attend several webinars, you know, where they challenge this concept about cold calling being dead. I'm not quite sure about that, if it's dead or not. I mean, people don't usually react the same way, especially in the US, like Charlie said. In Latin America, it's super easy. People pick up the phone. People are nice. People don't feel invaded when you call them. But in the US, it's completely different. So yeah, you get the numbers if you feel comfortable with calling. Once you have those names, which is, you know, numbers and contact information, this is probably one of the, I want to say, the most important part of the process. You need to do your research. You need to know your buyer personas. You need to know who they are, what they say, what they like, what they don't. Are they technical people? Are they more emotional people? Do they engage with news that are related to industry trends, or do they engage only with people they know? Like, you need to know. You need the more you know about your prospect, being an industry expert or being an end client, you know, the more you know about your buyer persona, the more efficient your communication is going to be, because you want to talk with that person. You don't want to, monologue. You don't want to keep on talking and talking and talking about your value proposition, who you are, what you can do for how you can add value to him or her. If they don't listen, like, it doesn't make sense. So the more you know about them, the better your chances of being heard. So this is here it comes where what we call the premise bucket. You need to build a premise bucket. What's a premise bucket? It's a set of premises that you're going to base your conversation on. These are the things that you would ideally want to know about your buyer persona, about your prospect, so you can, get in touch with them. First of all, we want to know if they're authors. Do they write articles, content? Do they share it? Then you want to know about what they are experts and what they say about, how they pitch their expertise. What do they say about them? Are they experts? Helping innovative companies around the world to land and launch in the US. You want to know how the person sees himself or herself. The awards one, of course. Several people, I have a software background, so I'm very comfortable talking to CIOs. So, and many of them, have won awards. That's like a very, very common thing to see. CIO of the year, or 2020 Constellation Research, etc. It's a Forrester Wave, Gardner. You see awards all around. So you want to know that. Of course, do they give back to their community? Are they environmentally responsible? Do they support causes, organizations? This is becoming more and more important on, also to have on your LinkedIn profile, that section. It's very useful because, people get in touch with you relating to that. Of course, you're going to pay more attention. When somebody addresses you, you're going to pay attention to the thing that's relevant to you. You're not going to pay attention to some, and I guess it relates to Kamal's question. How do you avoid being a spammer? You avoid being a spammer only sending relevant information. Like, what Charlie said, you don't want to have in your profile any type of information, or in your communication, any type of information that lures prospects away from the value you add to them. You don't want to share information that's not specifically relevant to them. And then, of course, you want to know, what's the company doing? News, press releases, product releases, what they do in terms of corporate social responsibility, of course. Anything you can say about the company. It's not the first and most important thing. It's a lot better to talk about the person, personally, not the company, because the company is something bigger than them. But then again, there are you're going to come across a lot of prospects that are really, very, very passionate about their company and share all the content the company produces. So, in that sense, it's good also to talk about the company with them. And this is something that you're not, it's not definitely necessary that you do it. You can outsource this task. You can think, of course, the whole job about the ICP, the buyer persona, strategically defining who you want to contact and how you're going to contact them. That's up to you. But then the database building, that's something that I would say anyone could do, as long as you have the right, directions, like the right, especially, your parameters, like, the revenue, the size of the company you're looking for, the title of the person you're looking for. If you have all those set, you just can't have somebody else do it for you. And of course, we have here, replicate your voice and be authentic. So, because, I guess this means that if you want to outsource it, you make sure that person uses your voice, says what you want your company to say, and not something different.
Yeah, And Bill, if you let me just chime in here, because you know, when we get all this information, and sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming in terms of, okay, how am I going to do all of this when I have to also run my business at the same time? And of course, that outsourcing part of it is a key element. And now you have to be careful on the outsourcing side. And of course, that there's great talent. You know, we work with people even in Argentina, for example, because there's good English language, and also the costs are really effective. You can go to Philippines because there's a lot of very good English speakers there. India for sales, I don't recommend so much. It's just because of the cultural alignment is sometimes not the same. So I usually try to look for talent in those areas. Colombia could be another place. Chile for sure. You can probably find good talent in Chile as well. So that's something that you could outsource. And this is more for the you know, the administrative work. Let's say building out the databases, maybe the follow-ups, and once we go with the cadences, you'll see what the follow-ups would mean. But it's super important that you keep your voice when you're doing this. So if you're going to hire somebody to do the outreach for you and connecting with others for you, it's important that you have a process in place and that they follow, you know, the process that you designed, and also the way that you would speak, so that it doesn't you know, sound weird on the way that this person can communicate can be very different from the way that you communicate. So I try to always recommend to, you know, be as hands-on as you can, but also be smart about delegating things that that are not necessarily core to the success of the outreach, right? So that's that. Thanks.
Yes, it's absolutely important to make a good first impression. You guys are new in the US, you know, you don't want to go ahead and be like, you know, this scammer that it's, you know, talking and not listening to what your prospect really wants, really needs. It's really interested in. It's a buyer's market. That's what we keep on, you know, this is a whole different subject, the demand generation stuff. But then again, yeah, it's a buyer's market. People buy what they want to buy, not what they want to sell to them. So now we move on the scripting and what we call cadence. You'll also find it as sequences, sales sequences, which is basically the amount of times for the rhythm you're going to go with, you know, when communicating with your prospects. So we have basic rules for cold outreach. First of all, personalization. The deepest level of personalization you can achieve. That's what we recommend. Like, you know, you don't go halfway with that. You just try to be as personal as you can. We're going to see how we can personalize at scale, because of course, you know, it's crazy. You cannot write a single different email for each one of your prospects, especially if you're going to target a lot. But there are certain techniques for personalizing at scale, but you need to be as personal in your communications as you can. You need to deposit before withdrawing, which actually means giving before taking. You want to give you want to add value to your prospects' lives. You want to show them something they didn't know before meeting you. You want to give them some brand new piece of information, you know, industry breakthrough news. You want to share studies, reports. Ideally, as we always say, it's your content. You got to be serious on your content strategy, and you want to produce relevant content for your ICPs, and you want to share that. But if you're still not there, if you're not ready with your content strategy, that's not a problem at all, because you can always share third-party content. There's a lot of great content out there. You know, you know, I'll go again to the tech industry because that's what I know. But if you go again to Forrester or to Gartner or any, you know, a bunch of analysts saying really interesting things that you can send to your prospects, and they're going to value that. So you always want to give them something before you want to take from them. You don't want to go and pitch your solution. You want to give them something, and then, if it makes sense, you pitch your solution.
And Pilar, just let me chime in just one thing about the personalization that you talked about that is super important, and that you're going to show them how to do it more on as you said, when you're scaling. And but in this part, I think especially for the state that most of the companies that we are seeing in the program are, it's super important that even you as a founder take that time, to look at who you're trying to address and look at the profiles, look at, as Pili was saying, on the research side, what do they read and what, because you're going to learn a lot while doing that as well, about how the dynamics of the industry works, how these players talk, who's connected with who. In this stage of your first, and what I call it, you're validating your offer in the US, I truly think that it's something that you as a founder can do, and it will be time well spent. Once, and it's like what we talked about before in the market ready, about cracking the code. Let's say once you crack the code and you know what works, then it's when you can sort of outsource and scale. But in the beginning, I truly think that it's for you to take the time to learn those dynamics. So just that feeling.
Yes. And then we have KISS, which is keep it short and simple. Always short and simple. Don't ramble on. People hate people who ramble on. I guess I heard that from James the other day. That's completely true. Be consistent. Don't send an email saying something and then send another email which is absolutely not related to that previous email, like you had never spoken to that person before, because you never know, maybe he or she read the email, they just didn't let you know. Follow up. This is like don't expect to send one email and get a reply. That doesn't happen. I mean, at least you get like that perfect first email, which I would love to see. There's not a lot of chances that you get a reply to your first email. You're probably going to have to send at least 5 emails. Well, a link to calendar, Calendly, any of those tools, that's good, because it really expedites, because otherwise you get into this like, hey, can you give me a couple of available slots? Yes, Wednesday 2 p.m. Oh, I cannot make it Wednesday 2 p.m. So, you just avoid that. You just go ahead and schedule here, please. And that's it. And the connection requests, you always have to send a note with them. Please don't send empty connection requests. Don't do that. I'm really, I can't believe there's so many people that still do that. I get connection requests with no messages all the time. And I go like, wow. Yeah, you need to send a message. And if it's personalized, I mean, it's going to be personalized because it's going to have the person's name. But if you can refer to something you have already seen on their profile, like, hey, I saw that I saw the article on Wall Street Journal. Great. No, I heard what you said in this program, this radio, this podcast, so whatever. You want to say something that's related to them. And this is an example of premise bucket. The premise bucket was spoken about. It's of a CIO. He won tons of awards, so I didn't list them. I have them there on his profile, so we're going to go and refer to one of them. He won the 2020 Constellation Research Business Transformation, which is something really relevant. So I outlined that. He was also named he was in the Dallas 500 Most Powerful Leaders. And then I picked up an outstanding profile line, because I was intending to pitch a solution. It was an integration solution. So, a solution that was going to speed up their time to market. It was going to speed up their projects, their technical projects, with the pandemic going on. And this guy just says customers are more quickly adopting new software and hardware, with many rolling out new tech projects in a matter of months rather than years due to a pandemic. And I just want to offer him something that's going to help him to do that, to roll out their projects faster. So that's why I picked up this premise. And here's where we go to the cadence or the sequence. There is a general, very well-known rule that speaks about 12 touch points. It basically says that it could take you 12 times for your prospect to respond to your communications. You're gonna, get in touch with him 12 times. And this could be, it's not only the outbound touch points, like the communications you send, the emails, the LinkedIn connection requests, the calls, but also the inbound touch points. Because ideally, your prospect, you're going to send him an email, you're going to send him a connection request, you're going to call him. Ideally, your prospect, if your messages are relevant, good, timely, ideally, he or she is going to check your website, maybe your LinkedIn page, or maybe he's going to fill in a form that you have just, posted on on a third-party website. So overall, there's an average that says that, that's going to take 12 times. This cadence, the specific cadence, has only 8 touch points, which it's still a lot, but because we're focusing only on email and LinkedIn, considering we don't want to call at this moment. So day one, you want to, take care of the data integrity. That's really important. That's where you build the premise bucket. That's what we do. You go ahead, you check the profile, you follow them. It's very important because then you get their news on your feed. You follow them, you take a note of all the relevant information, and as we discussed before, anything that you think would help you along the way, so you can get this conversation going. You follow the profiles, you like their articles, you read those articles, you like them. Maybe you can comment also. Then you send email, your first email, which is going to be personalized, 100% personalized. Then you send a LinkedIn connection request. You always send a message when they accept. That's another rule. You don't go ahead. You send a note with a connection request. They accept. You say something else. You don't stay quiet. Like, hey, thank you for adding me to your network. Several things to say there. Still avoiding asking for a meeting. You don't go on, hey, thank you for adding me to your network. Can you give me 5 minutes of your time? Doesn't work like that usually, except for the fact that the prospect is really, really needing your solution at that moment. Doesn't happen. Then you send another email and another, and now I'm going to show how you can, there's some of them that you can 100% automate, that you don't have to do anything, because CRMs, most of the CRMs or email marketing tools have this feature. You just go ahead and personalize the name, and that's it. You don't need to personalize, because those are follow-up emails. You don't need to work so much on the content there. And then you move, you go along until you move them to nurture, because at the end you break up. There's one point when you need to break up. You need to stop trying to contact that person, because if you craft those personalized messages, they are relevant, they are short, they are simple, they are concise. You won't need to send more than 5 emails. With 5 emails, the person didn't reply. It's because he's not interested. This is not the time. This is not the right timing. You just go ahead and say, hey, listen, I understand you're not interested. We'll see each other in the future. We'll see. I'm going to show you some examples of breakup emails too. So this is a great first email. Can you read there, guys? It's a little small, yeah. So here you go. Hey, first name, subject line is you know, it's always great to be personalized to, and it has to be short. You know, don't get those long subject lines with questions, and that doesn't work. Just hey, and the first name, that's a little high. The first name, one word, that's it. I hope you're doing great. I'm reaching out because I came across your profile through constellation research. One line that especially stood out to me on your Wall Street Journal article was the one where you say customers are managing unprecedented amounts of strategic data and rolling out new projects in a matter of months rather than years. What if you could leverage a single low-code integration platform to accelerate deployments by 10x and simplify your customer infrastructure as a result of that? If you give me a shot to unpack how other industry experts are growing their customer base in the most complex software ecosystems, I promise I won't take your time pointlessly. Either way, congratulations on your work. Keep the great content coming. This is an example, and I'm going to show you the structure for this. But here I have another example, which is, for me, even better, because it's shorter and it has what we're all looking for, value. Hey, first name, your team has most likely taken a hard look at the prospecting messages that are being sent out by your sellers and made some adjustments. We ran the numbers on millions of sales emails to determine what types of messaging gives you the best chance of getting a response. Link to the research. Would you be open to meeting on Thursday to take a look together at your team's prospecting messaging and how that benchmarks against what we're seeing? Relevant information. This is a link to a research that, like it says there, you know, it was ran over millions of sales cadences, and the result was some sort of cadence with specifics on the emails, the subjects, the lines, everything. So that was a great piece of content, a very interesting research. I'm seeing messages there. Are you guys with me? Can't see you.
Yes.
Yes, Philly, we're all here. Yes, we're seeing.
Okay. I was seeing the messages.
Oh no, that's just we're asking something. We'll do that at the end, so don't worry.
So that was the first message with the relevant content. Once you go with that first message, you go with this one, which is 100% automated. You don't have to do anything. You just reply to that hey first name, and you just ask them any thoughts. That's it. That's a reply trick. Because you're sending a reply, you know, that's usually, you know, gets you when you get an email that says RE, you just go like, you know, that's catches your eye in a sense like, hey, I need to reply to these. Somebody reply to me. What's going on here? I lost this email. So this is a good trick. The reply. And then, you know, this is an example of a third-party content, because the previous one, this research from SalesLoft, they had done it. You know, this is it's a great company. That's another tool that we're going to show you. We're not going to show you, but we're sending you the link. It's a very expensive tool too, but it just does that, like sales analytics, sales intelligence. And that research was from theirs, they had done it and it was great. But in this case, this is a third party content example. This is a research from Gartner. You know, I'm exactly pitching this, the hybrid integration platform. I just pick up this line from Gartner that says this: by 2022, at least 65% of large and global organizations will have implemented a hybrid integration platform. This is what you need. Click on the link here. And here we have no hay dos sin tres. I say, okay, we already sent 2 emails. Let's say we sent 2 emails already. We still haven't gotten any reply from our prospects. And here's what I want to show you is the rule to write that first email that I showed you, the one on the constellations research, remember, the premise bucket. Here's how we're going to use the premise bucket. So you have this first paragraph, that's your introduction. You always want to keep it short. You don't want to lose that. You want to keep it short, you want to keep it simple. But in this first paragraph, you're going to address their self-authored content, the content they engaged with, their personal achievement or self-attributed traits, what we spoke about, what they say about them, how they position themselves, like with the community, the company's timeline, anything that happens with the company, the relatable pain. Ideally, what you want to address here is the pain that you know your prospect has. What you want to do, you want to sort out that issue, that pain. You want to give them that pain reliever. So ideally, you want to go here. As we said before, we picked up a line from the Wall Street Journal, from his Wall Street Journal article, but this is exactly the pain the CIO has, because he needs to roll out his projects faster. He has no time now. Nobody has time now. Everyone has gone digital, to the cloud, and all this. They just need to go faster and faster and faster and multiply your use cases. So you can have, enlarge your customer base. That there's no other way. So I just chose that line because it summarizes his pain. His most important pain. He's got several problems. He's got several pains, but at this point, the one that I can sort out is this one. So ideally here, I address this arrow you see here is because this is, and this is also, it comes out of studies that say that people usually read their emails like this. They just go here. If they find something is interesting here, so they just go backwards. Okay. This is the way people read emails that they're not expecting, that they don't know if they're going to pay attention to. They just want to say, if they want to find if this is relevant to them, they're going to go like this. So you want to watch which words you write here on the upper right corner. If some of those words that I wrote on the previous emails were his words, the ones he wrote on the Wall Street Journal article, so he's probably going to recognize, at least it's going to catch his eye because it's something that he wrote. So here in the second paragraph, which has to be the shortest of all, you need to keep it really short here. Here's when you hook up your value proposition. Here's where you say how you can sort out this, how you can solve this pain in a very short way. Ideally questions. What if? Does it sound crazy too? Have you considered, ever thought, these are good. It's good to hook up a value proposition with a question. And then you go, if you give me a shot, this is really good. It works a lot. If you just point them out the time and date, you don't give them options. You have several shades of gray. You can ask them, are you open for a meeting? You can say, hey, can you give me some time this week? You can say, give me a shot Wednesday, 2 p.m. Or you can just go ahead, please schedule here. You can try all of them. And here you go, I promise I'll briskly walk away if you're not impressed. You promise that if your message is not relevant, you just walk away. And you have to, of course, you have to live up to it. When you say you're gonna walk away, you do walk away. And the last, so this is a call to action, right? We got the first paragraph, it's the introduction, the purpose of your call. Remember when I said the purpose of my call is the value proposition that you hook up with a question, the call to action. You always have to do that. What do you want for him? Do you want 15 minutes, 30 minutes? What do you want? And the loyalty statement. I think this is really a really good one because you tell them either way, whether you reply to this email or not, whether you're interested in my solution or not, whether you like me or not, I still like you. I like your job, the work you do. Congratulations on your award. And that's a great paragraph for the community engagement and all this NGOs and any organization they support. Hey, I thought that was great. The event you hosted with where I don't have that animals associations or whatever. You just target that. That's a great paragraph for that. And this is a very interesting email too, because we've been through 3 already, or 4 if you count all of the examples. Like, you reach this point where you say, okay, evidently this guy, you already sent him email messages. Maybe they accepted the connection but never replied back. Maybe they didn't even accept the connection request. So here's when you go ahead and say, hey, I understand you're not interested, so I'm going to walk away. In case you're interested, you know how to find me, and that's it. I like this paragraph. It says, I was reading an article about time being scarce and how we only want to come across relevant information, and was convicted for my previous message to you. So I understand I wasn't relevant. I wasn't interesting. I understood, no. I wasn't clear, because most of the times it's that. Maybe you weren't even clear with your value proposition. Maybe your messaging was great. Maybe it was timely, but you couldn't quite explain exactly the value you could add to your prospect. Okay, I should have known better, but given your permission, I'd like another shot to earn a small bit of your time. Please feel free to schedule here if you don't know. Okay. And I hope you have a wonderful Q4, which now it's gonna turn on to. I hope you have a wonderful 2021 or next year. I hope next year is better than this one. And then there's a continued learning. Like Charlie said, we're always following. It's great to be following this thought leader. There's a bunch of people out there on LinkedIn, trying to share everything they know. Like I said, I have this, Jason Bay, specifically this guy, he's always talking about cold calling, because of course he gets, this questions all the time from people like, hey, what can I do? Is cold calling dead? Should I call? Should I? So, he's always like, bringing people to show how they call, how they do it, what works, what doesn't. It gets a lot of psychology to it, because if you want to communicate with people, you want to know what they pay attention to, what's usually how we diffuse. There's a whole theory about diffusing negatives. Like if you ask a question in a negative way, the person is more inclined to say yes. There's several techniques, bunch of techniques to make your cold calling more successful, because in the end it's the most difficult part of it, of the whole outreach. So we give you this, the organizations, to several companies, think tanks, people getting together to share best practices and ideas on this. And I guess I'll leave the hand to Charlie.
Sure, thanks, Peter.